Aujourd'hui, je vais parler de, that super duper star that came crashing down to Earth in the last 10 years, Elizabeth Holmes, and why I still feel just a tiny bit of sympathy towards, well, I don't know if it's actually for her, but what she represents. Okay. Hey, XenPuck here. I don't know about you, but I do remember reading about Elizabeth Holmes in some mainstream media weekly magazine cover story. Probably from Time, but don't remember exactly, and totally still buy into the hype. I mean, I was, and still am, mostly a cynic, so maybe a better word I should use is I was a bit jealous, okay? Let's be honest. Still, to incur jealousy assumes that I still bought into the story, that here's this young, very young at the time, lady who's doing something in tech or tech adjacent. That seemed pretty cool, and I was jealous because I was older and haven't done nearly as much. That's natural, right? I mean, obviously by now, we all know the big joke's on all of us because she didn't actually accomplish anything real, right? It was all lies. Wow, so today I want to see what I have learned from this spectacular house of cards, considering that I've always worked in Silicon Valley and do know what that culture is like, just a wee bit. So point number one, right, I can't but talk about her persona, right? This persona, the fake Steve Jobs-ish costuming, the definitely artificially deep voice, and that whole follow the script, fancy college dropout, and kind of consistently lying to literally every single person out there that I can't even tell whether she believes her own BS or not. Now, because I am a cynic, I can't really fault her on the costuming part or the voice costuming part, if you can call it that. Because let's be honest, right? Ladies definitely are not taken as seriously in the workplace, right? I'm not saying that's right, that's just how it is still. Sorry. So her deeper voice probably did help, okay? Even if it sounds like cartoonishly villainous in her case, right? I can't even fault the whole follow the script drop out of college routine, okay? That's boilerplate for startup founders in Silicon Valley, right? Because apparently only young people can innovate, and college dropouts, they understand that college just cuts into the precious youth time or whatever. The only thing that really bothers me is the lying with a straight face bit, right? Because you know what that reminds me of? That orange douche that was our president that I wish would be erased out of existence in the history books. Now, on the surface, a lady Silicon Valley entrepreneur and a silver spoon fatty who's actually explicitly morally decrepit don't really seem to have much in common. At least not in their politics, right? But in their ego-driven lying, that's basically pathological, I think that does have something in common. I mean, I'm guessing the lack of, or the utter lack of integrity can transcend political leanings. Isn't that something? I mean, to be this devoid of facts, to be so entrenched as to never apologize, to think that somehow it'll all turn out to be okay despite being a complete trash person, trash human being, that is a level of lying to yourself that is, what, almost admirable, right? Talk about the big lie, right? Hey, silver lining, right? Theranos went down in flames and Holmes just got found guilty for a bunch of fraud charges. So maybe there's hope yet that the orange douche will also get his comeuppance now, right? Point number two. So you know I'm not defending Holmes because I think she's a waste of a space as a person. I mean, but if a hustler hustles you, is it only the hustler's fault? I mean, do we as a people who bought the story, myself included, not bear any responsibility? What about the media? What about other scientists and scholars and people supposedly much wiser who either implicitly or explicitly endorsed her long litany of fabrications? After all, do I not believe in personal responsibility? Am I not cynical enough to believe that it is immoral for a sucker to keep his money? Hey, again, just to be clear, we're all the suckers here. But do I really think that this lady is such an amazing salesperson that she's able to fool essentially a whole nation into following her narrative, and none of that's because I don't know, most of us are a little bit greedy, want to believe that somehow magic will happen overnight, so that maybe one day we too can get that hover car or teleporter or whatever magical tech of our dreams. Plus, this lady was touting medical technology, right? Because it'll save lives, and that'll change the world. Who wouldn't want to be a part of that, right? This naivety that's in all of us, is that humanity's greatest strength or our biggest weakness? I mean, maybe both, right? So would we react differently, honestly, to the next version of one of these tech saviors? Roll the dice that it's now real, or just believe that some kid barely out of school has all the answers when all signs point to otherwise? Look, I'm not saying that I have the answers, only questions, but I do want to take some responsibility, right? Even if it's just not looking into the details myself. So if anything this story has taught me to do is to not complain if I'm suckered into a story that I thought was too good to be true, right? How about you? Point number 3, finally, the main issue that makes me somewhat sympathetic to the whole Holmes situation is that she is in fact a lady. And because, she took fake it until you make it to its logical conclusion. And now apparently lady entrepreneurs are facing backlash because of this one lady. I mean, look, this is where my experience in this industry comes in, right? There are already barely any ladies in tech, right? If you watch the show Silicon Valley, right, I'd say that's a fairly accurate representation in terms of that, right? There are very few ladies in lead positions in tech, right? Any minority, of course, would face some sort of being othered. But ladies looking for funding, I think, have it worse because, they're working in an area filled with bros of the most delusional type of mindsets, right? I'm talking about young men with a lot of money, mostly lacking in social graces, and think that they're all changing the world when in fact there are just a bunch of douches that want to look important, okay? I mean, again, not saying ladies are exempt from the mentality by virtue of being ladies, right? Maybe there are some lady douches out there too. However, never seen a lady say really inappropriate things to a dude, only the other way around, right? So yeah, I can imagine what it's like post-theranos to have the added burden of not looking like you're just a giant liar. Let's be clear, plenty of frauds like that WeWork guy have come and gone, but somehow we don't concentrate and prosecute those dudes as well. And just because they came and went, and no one's ever like, oh, maybe all dudes are frauds. I'm no psychologist, so I can't explain quite the nuances of this type of thinking, right? But I do absolutely believe that that's what's on investors' minds, especially venture capital investors right now, okay? About, well, women, okay? This is where I feel like it's particularly unfair. It's already an uphill climb to be a lady in a field dominated by dudes. Now to be judged just because some other lady you've never met was a total trash person. And others' minds might think, that makes the whole gender suspect? Oh Lord, I mean, that sounds pretty awful. I'm so sorry about that. Can't fix it, but that is definitely a result of this case, right? Anyway, I kind of still love the Holmes and Theranos story because it's one of hubris, right? To think that anyone can sustain that big lie forever. At least the tech catches up, right? It's so absurd that I kind of just have to laugh about it. But still, generally, we still log the culture where she came into being, Most of us still wants to believe that the great next disruptor is just around the corner, dreaming up something we currently think is impossible, right? This is despite the fact that I'm a cynic, right? Because, there are times where we don't want to be, because there's always a chance some future tech will finally do that miraculous thing and bring us all together as human beings in a great, stunning utopia. And that will emerge out of the ashes of the old world. Oh wait, what the heck am I saying? That is absolutely ridiculous because human beings are awful, okay? Most human beings are trash people. Holmes is just like top trash person, okay? But one can dream, right? Now, what you guys learn from this story of the rise and fall of Elizabeth Holmes, please do comment below and like and subscribe and all that jazz. Or whatever, okay? Makes not a lick of difference to me. Cheers. A la prochaine.